Thank you. Thank you so much, Congressman King. You know, you are so right about this very contentious nomination. This position has been called the Attorney General's lawyer. The Justice Department's website explains, quote, "The Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Office of Legal Counsel provides authoritative legal advice to the President and to all executive branch agencies. The office drafts legal opinions of the Attorney General and also provides its own written opinions and oral advice in response to requests from the Counsel to the President, the various agencies of the executive branch, the offices within the Department. Such requests typically deal with legal issues of particularly complexity and importance or about which two or more agencies are in disagreement. The office is also responsible for providing legal advice to the executive branch on all constitutional questions and reviewing pending legislation for constitutionality. All executive orders and proclamations proposed to be issued by the President are reviewed by the Office of Legal Counsel for form and legality, as are various other matters that require the President's formal approval. In addition, as to serving as, in effect, outside counsel for other agencies of the executive branch, the Office of Legal Counsel also functions as the general counsel to the Department itself. Congressman King, you are absolutely right that this individual will have the ear of the President, because this position provides authoritative legal advice to the President and all executive branch agencies. The AAG for the OLC is quite influential when evaluating existing laws and determining legal implications of legislative and administrative proposals. It is not a position for which an ideologue would be well suited. And I really want to go to that end, because this, of all the nominations that have come to our attention so far, has really disturbed me the most. And it's disturbed me because, as most people know, one of the things in the heartstrings that I have is my position on life. I believe that we cannot question when life begins or when it should end. We have to understand that life has value from conception to natural death. Only if we want to wage war against poverty, only when we want to make sure that each and every person in the world has the opportunity to be the best person that they can be, only when we give people the freedom to be what they want to be, can this happen if we understand that that freedom begins at conception, and that freedom must continue through its natural conclusion. But this individual holds a much different view on those positions. And so I really want to talk just a few moments about what I call life according to Don Johnson. And I want to talk about some things that have been said by this individual. Pregnancy is equivalent to slavery. Quote, "Statutes that curtail her abortion choice are disturbingly suggestive of involuntary servitude prohibited by the 13th Amendment, in that forced pregnancy requires a woman to provide continuous physical service to the fetus in order to further the state's asserted interest." Don Johnson's Supreme Court amicus brief that she authored in Webster versus Reproductive Health Services. I have to be silent for a minute so you can digest the coldness of that statement. Protecting life makes women into no more than fetal containers. That's another one of her beliefs. Quote, "The woman is constantly aware for 9 months that her body is not wholly her own. The state has conscripted her body for its own ends. Thus, abortion restrictions reduced pregnant women to no more than fetal containers." Don Johnson, Supreme Court amicus brief that she authored in Webster versus Reproductive Health Services. I don't even know how to respond to that As a mother, yeah, as soon as I felt life, I understood that I had a partner I was going to carry for the next 9 months. And that experience only enabled me to begin the love that I had for my daughter, and now that I see for her wonderful son. Yeah, pregnancy changes us because it gives us life. Abortion brings relief is another one of her statements. The experience is no longer traumatic. The response of most women to the experience is relief. Dawn Johnsen, Supreme Court amicus brief that she authored in Webster versus Reproductive Health Services. You know, I've talked to women who've had abortions, and they have a much different view. Those that become pregnant are losers. This one really stings me. She says the argument that women who become pregnant have in some sense consented to the pregnancy belies reality. And others who are the inevitable losers of the contraceptive lottery no more consent to pregnancy than pedestrians consent to being struck by drunk drivers. Dawn Johnsen, Supreme Court amicus brief that she authored in Webster versus Reproductive Health Services. I don't see women who are pregnant as losers. I see their winning capabilities of having that life inside of them because of being a life that will carry on and continue for generations to come. Another one, there is no need to reduce the number of abortions. Quote, progressives must not portray all abortions as tragedies. Senator Hillary Clinton, in a 2005 speech commendable for setting forth a pro-choice, pro-prevention, pro-family agenda, took the aspiration a step in the wrong direction when she called for policy changes so that abortion does not have to ever be exercised or only in very rare circumstances. Dawn Johnsen in the Constitution in 2020. These are her statements. I'm not making these up, Congressman. These are her statements, Madam Chairman. Pro-life supporters are comparable to the Ku Klux Klan. That's another one of her statements. And she says the terrorist behavior of petitioners is remarkably similar to the conspiracy of violence and intimidation carried out by the Ku Klux Klan. Dawn Johnsen, Supreme Court amicus brief that she authored in Bray versus Alexandria Women's Health Clinic. I can't believe that she would say these things, but again, these are her words, not mine. Some of her positions encompass questionable legal arguments, including the assertion that abortion bans might undermine the 13th Amendment, which banned slavery. This is a woman who was so entrenched with NARAL and the ACLU's Reproductive Freedom Project. She's compared pregnancy to involuntary servitude, described pregnant women as losers in the contraceptive lottery, and criticized Senator Clinton for then claiming to keep abortions, traumatic experiences, rare. This is a woman who doesn't have the same view of life that most Americans have. Yeah, this is a sensitive issue, but most Americans understand that life is sacred and must be protected. And I believe that most Americans want someone who is the legal counsel of the president to not have such polarizing views. I believe that they want someone that will step back and evaluate decisions based on their constitutionality, their legality, and not put forth their own agenda. This is a person who at every step along her way has put forth her own very pro-abortion agenda in each and everything that she has done. This is not the right person for this job, and I would only hope that this administration changes its position.
Reclaiming my time, and I thank the gentlelady for coming to the floor and standing up for life. and making this announcement on statement after statement, quote after quote, that's come from Don Johnson, the former legal counsel for NARAL, the National Abortion Rights Action League, the one who has inflamed the pro-family, pro-life, pro-constitution, pro-individual rights people in this country by making a whole series of outrageous statements, and many of them were mentioned by the gentlelady from Ohio. I put this one up on abortion protesters. This is the KKK piece. The terrorist behavior of petitioners is remarkably similar to the conspiracy of violence and intimidation carried out by the Ku Klux Klan, against which Congress intended this statute to protect. People that are outside of the abortion clinics praying for the innocent human life that's being exterminated inside are being described as KKK type of intimidators. This is the person that we would have whispering into the ear of the President, the Office of Legal Counsel, issuing opinions and decisions that are de facto judgments on our Constitution and the legality. And that is one example. Gentlelady gave a number of other examples, and I would yield to the gentlelady from Ohio.
And I just want to say, sir, that I'm someone that has, throughout my adult life, stood in front of an abortion clinic in the city of Cincinnati. We stand in silence. We stand in prayer. We do not say anything to people as they walk by. We just pray that they have a change of heart and that they understand that all life is precious, including the one that they may be carrying inside of their body. I have been doing this since I was in college, and I have yet to see any behavior that would even look at a terrorist behavior. So for her to say that, I think is totally out of character.
And reclaiming my time from the gentlelady who has been a champion for life for a long time. Here's another piece that we have heard about. Don Johnson on abortion, legal but not rare. This is where she even goes in conflict with such known liberals as Hillary Clinton, for example, where Don Johnson said the notion of legal restrictions as some kind of reasonable compromise, perhaps to help make abortion safe, legal, and rare, thus proves nonsensical. That's her statement of January 25, 2006, not that long ago. And then here's where our progressives show up again that I spoke about earlier, Madam Speaker. Progressives must not portray all abortions as tragedies. Absent unforeseen technological and medical changes, abortion is unlikely to become truly rare and certainly not non-existent. This lady is happy about abortion becoming rare. She has chastised even Hillary Clinton about asking for abortion to be safe, legal, and rare. And this gives you an example of what progressives are also, Madam Speaker. Progressives fit this bill. Can you imagine a progressive who was anti-slavery, who believed in the value of the intrinsic value of human life to the extent of laying down their life for their brethren who have lived in bondage? Would people like that be advocating for more abortions and calling those who pray outside abortion clinics equivalent to the KKK? I think we know what a progressive is today. I don't think there were progressives that existed by any defined label that took place around the Revolutionary War, Civil War time, Madam Speaker. But this is, Don Johnson does fit. She is a progressive. I will give her that. And her name should be withdrawn by the President of the United States. In fact, the gentlelady from Ohio and I are on a letter together that us and 60 others, members of Congress, who issued a letter to President Obama dated March 24, 2009. And it calls upon President Obama to withdraw the nomination of Don Johnson as Office of Legal Counsel. And part of the language here in the second page of the letter to the President, signed by 62 of us from the House, it says in the letter, Senator Hillary Clinton, in a 2005 speech, commendable for setting forth a pro-choice, pro-prevention, pro-family agenda, took the aspiration a step in the wrong direction. This is Don Johnson talking about Hillary Clinton. She says, Hillary Clinton took the aspiration to rare abortions and a step in the wrong direction when she called for policy changes that abortion does not ever have to be exercised or only in very rare circumstances. That's a quote of Hillary Clinton. Don Johnson even calls Hillary Clinton out as not progressive enough, not being enough pro-abortion, that she would think that abortions should be rare. That is an affront to Don Johnson's values. Don Johnson would be in a position to whisper into the ear of the president what's legal and what isn't, what's constitutional and what isn't. But not only that, she's just not flipping a toggle switch that is a legal opinion, Madam Speaker. She is shaping legal policy and making recommendations to the president that are policy changes. Now imagine if she wasn't there, and she's formally not there because her nomination is held up by the Senate. It's held up by the Senate because they know many of the things that Ms. Schmidt and I have talked about here tonight and that we've talked about for some months now since her nomination emerged. But the Guantanamo Bay issue fits perfectly with the type of thing that I'd bring to bear, where an Office of Legal Counsel would be there with access to the president continually, generating an activist left-wing, yes, call it a progressive agenda, because that's not going to be a very good word when we finish describing what it is, coming up with ideas like, Mr. President, you need to issue an executive order to close Guantanamo Bay and turn these prisoners loose. Oh, Madam Speaker, I didn't make that up. I'm not being flippant. I'm simply quoting Don Johnson. It says here on a list of quotes from Don Johnson with regard to Guantanamo Bay under Gitmo, that Don Johnson